Set.
Hi and welcome to the 4-Minute Mull. I do hope that you have had a good week. I am making a commitment to you that I'm going to do my very best to get this mull in under 4 minutes. I know, however, that that's a futile commitment because the subject today is too big and it's too complex to be squeezed in that time, but I'm going to try my best, so let's get started. I woke up this morning to come across an interesting article on Velo News website, and it featured an interview with one Dr. Paul DeMayo, who is an anti-doping expert and whose name I think I may have just butchered, or surname, and I apologize for that, Paul. Nevertheless, the article was called How to Make Sports Fairer, Eliminate the TUE. Now, a TUE, for those who don't know, is basically a medical permission that is given to an elite athlete and allows them to use a medical product or a drug that would, under normal conditions, be banned and illegal as a doping product. And so, for instance, the athlete might have an acute infection, a chest infection, an injury, and they can then apply for a TUE, take that banned substance, but not have the risk of failing a drugs test. All good in theory because the drug is intended to return them to normal function, but not above it. So it's supposed to not provide an advantage. The problem is this. In the last few years, we have become increasingly aware that the TUE system is being abused by athletes, coaches, teams, entire systems as a way to find another advantage. It's even been acknowledged as being part of the now, in my opinion, discredited marginal gains ethos at Team Sky. And so that's basically what this article and this interview with Paul DeMayo addresses. So there are two, I guess, principles that Paul uses to launch this challenge on the TUE system. The first of those, you can see here, was revealed to us as a consequence of the Fancy Bears hacks, where we discovered that a number of some pretty high-profile TUEs were given under what I would kindly call dubious circumstances. So they lack a doctor's signature, or you get the impression that there is a doctor, but that doctor himself might be part of the doping problem. So that's basically a challenge to the integrity and the trust within the TUE system. The second challenge regards the health of the athlete. And Paul's argument here, and I think it's a valid one, is that when an athlete is injured or has a medical condition, it's perhaps not the wisest thing to get them back into competition at that moment. But that's what a TUE allows them to do. And so he writes that you could be giving an athlete a long-term risk of health by allowing them to compete with a TUE. I think that's extremely questionable. He does go on to acknowledge the arguments against his point. And I guess the main one in that regard is that people will say that it's unfair that an athlete with asthma or a chest infection is discriminated against as a consequence of something that lies beyond their control. And I think that is the philosophical point around which this debate hinges. My personal stance on this issue, I'll be honest with you, is a little bit unstable, which I hate. I like having a stable opinion, even if it is in the middle, and it doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. But on this one, I feel somewhat unstable for reasons that I don't fully understand yet. When the Bradley Wiggins thing happened, for instance, I wrote on Twitter and elsewhere that the TUE system is a failure and they should just do away with it. I was fed up, and I remember thinking and saying that if a guy like Wiggins can't stay healthy, and if you can't deal with the stress and the rigor of training and competition and you break down, then it's not right for medicine to restore you back to normal. Part of being an elite athlete is being able to stay healthy, and I do believe that. I guess it's a somewhat Darwinian survival of the fittest view of sport. However, in a more, I guess, introspective, quiet moment, I start to think about it, and you realize that there are probably, maybe even a majority of clean athletes who are honest and who are using the TUE system exactly how it was intended, and they're not getting any advantage from it. If we now did away with the TUE system because of the few who do cheat, basically what we're doing is we're saying, just because some kids couldn't play nice, now nobody gets any toys at all. And I think that's the very definition of injustice. And so then I think, actually, the TUE system needs to stay. But it needs drastic overhaul, let's be honest. It's not fit for purpose the way that it is, because what we have seen, without question, is the medicalization of doping. And that's enabled by the TUE system as it stands. So best case is it needs an overhaul. Worst case is it needs to be eliminated. And on balance, as I sit here tonight, I'm probably slightly on the overhaul and not the eradication side. Maybe something will happen in the next week and I'll swing back the other side and I'll say, sport is Darwinian. Olympic champions are set apart from the rest of the world by having physiology, metabolic function, biochemistry, neurological functions, muscle characteristics, cardiovascular, mental, that make them Olympic champions. And an athlete who's got a medical condition that compromises performance simply doesn't have what it took. In the same sense that an elite cyclist with a hematocrit of 36, 37 does not have permission to take EPO to bump their red blood cell mass up in order to compete and win the Tour de France. We don't allow that for good reason. So why do we allow other conditions to be corrected? So there's a philosophical debate there. I know that this video clip hasn't answered those questions, and that's, as I say, because I don't have the answer. I would welcome your thoughts and opinions, because I think through discussing it, it will help us to understand it, and that's progress. For me, though, the answer is not to eliminate them. It's to change the way they are done in a dramatic way to get rid of this medicalization of doping. I failed to break 4 minutes. I need a TUE to speak faster. So join me next time. Maybe I'll have figured it out by then.